What is up, everybody? Matt here, back again with another video for you. The Grateful Dead. You either like them or you don't. It was probably best said by Jerry Garcia, who was quoted as saying, "We're like licorice. Not everybody likes licorice, but the people who like licorice really like licorice." Well said. Now as an adult, I can really appreciate their music and love them. There's really no better music I like to put on when I'm driving a long distance or I'm getting some work done. It's just really good music to have in the background, and it's really good stuff. As a kid, I was definitely more in love with the iconography and the art associated with it. The skulls, the bears, the roses, the cool celestial stuff. I just thought that was so great. And there's nothing wrong with that. As a kid, every single notebook or assignment I turned in had a little steal your face skull or a tap dancing skeleton on it. As a kid, I even once for Halloween went as a tap dancing skeleton. I had the top hat, I had the cane, the mask, and everything. It was a lot of fun getting to do that. As I got older, they quickly became one of my favorite jam bands. Part of what drew me to the Dead was a sense of community. The Deadhead community in general is just very fun, very giving, and it's all about, sharing and collecting and creating really, really good music, and I think that that's very, very cool. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the Grateful Dead movie and its soundtrack. I first became aware of the Grateful Dead movie when I was looking for an album that contained a lot of good live tracks. I was listening to a lot of Dead on Pandora, and I would write down the songs that I liked as they came up, and I was very happy when I picked up the soundtrack, and pretty much every one of the songs I had listed was on that particular record. The film was shot in October of 1974 at 5 shows at the Winterland Ballroom in San Francisco. These shows were going to be the last the Dead would perform for almost 2 years because they were going to take a hiatus. I really do love the film, and one thing I really like about it is, with a lot of bands and stuff like that, you think to yourself, oh, if only I could go back and see them, when they had all their members, when it was, just starting out, or when they were really in their prime. And what's great about the Grateful Dead movie is that it's a perfect snapshot of that particular time, that lineup of the band. It's a really cool experience to watch it. The group's building manager, Willie Leggett, said there's nothing like a Grateful Dead concert, and, people tended to agree with him on that. And so what they tried to do with this film, the purpose of it was twofold. The first purpose was to try and capture what it was like at a Grateful Dead concert and show it to people who either couldn't make it or, couldn't go or whatever it may be. And then the other reason was, again, they were going to go on a hiatus after this. And the idea was, let's create a film that captures a perfect show, beginning to end, and we'll put that out on tour, essentially. And that will tour instead of us, kind of like a Sgt. Pepper type scenario here. Probably one of mine and a lot of other people's favorite moments in the film is the animated intro with US Blues. I think that that's really, really cool. In a way, I kind of wish the whole film was like that, kind of all these cool animated vignettes, kind of like a hippie version of heavy metal, but yeah, very cool. The animation was done by Gary Gutierrez, whose company Colossal Pictures would later go on to do a bunch of animated stuff for other bands, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they actually created the intro to the CBS reboot of The Twilight Zone in the 80s. Very cool. Leon Gass served as the director of the actual concert filming. They were originally going to call the film The Grateful Dead Warts and All because of just all the problems they were having when they were filming it. They had issues with the multiple cameras. They had issues with mostly with the sound recording because there were switches that forgot to get flipped or something like that, and it was, just kind of a lot of issues. And, the Dead, they understood, look, you want to be here all 5 nights because magic is going to happen one of those 5 nights and you want to be there to capture it. And he was kind of getting bummed out, and then on the 4th night, as he said, magic happened and they captured a really, really good performance. He was also really charmed by the Dead's road crew and the legion of Deadheads that showed up at the shows, and he kind of understood that moment it was like, okay, this isn't just a concert film. This is a film about an experience. It's a film about a community. It's a film about this whole community of people, that really come together for the love of music. And in the film, you see that. There's shots of the band, there's backstage stuff, there's stuff of the fans. It's a whole experience that you get to have with this film, and I think that's what makes it such a great concert film. Jerry Garcia himself actually stepped in to edit all of the footage, all of the sound that was shot for the film. He said it was 2 years of like doubt and unlimited stress, and it was, you know, pretty good chunk of work. You know, it was so much work. He actually gets a co-directing credit on the film. And yeah, he was just constantly working on it, pouring tons of money into it. By the end of the whole process, it had been 3 years since those shows, and the group was almost bankrupt. The animated sequence at the beginning alone cost almost half as much as it took to make the film entirely. So yeah, they were not in a good financial position by the time the film came out. They really wanted to keep up the idea that the film was touring for them. So what they did was, you know, nowadays a film will open in all theaters all across the United States, in some cases the world. Well, back then, films would open in regions. You know, it would open up on the East Coast and then the Midwest and so on and so forth. But they took it one step further. They only made like 1 or 2 prints and then actually toured the film city to city. And what they would do is they would bring in their own sound equipment. So it was really a very cool, you know, experience. It was like a concert, you know. It premiered on June 1st, 1977 in New York, and fans liked it, but some of the band members weren't too happy with it. They felt that it didn't represent the band accurately as they were at that point. And they were like, well, some members have left, we're playing new material, this and that. But yeah, they felt that it didn't represent the current band that was currently on tour. Not only that, but after, you know, the 3 years, they had decided to record more and tour more, you know. So having the farewell, you know, shows on film was a little like, well, you didn't do a farewell show. But I mean, every band does that, so yeah, don't worry about it. After the one reel did its tour around the United States, they ended up making multiple prints, showed it at a lot of colleges. It became a very popular midnight movie. But where it really took off was obviously on VHS and DVD, and that's where it really found its audience. In 2011, they actually did a film event where they showed it across the country in a bunch of theaters, and for one night only. And they, before the film, they had some new music, they had some interviews, they had pictures, they had all this crazy stuff. And it was so popular that they had to add a second date. And it became the Grateful Dead movie meetup, I think is what they call it. And so yeah, very, very cool that they do that. And I think it's still going on. I think some theaters still like, hey, we're going to show the Grateful Dead movies. So yeah, very cool. The story of the soundtrack itself is pretty interesting in itself. They originally released a unofficial soundtrack called Steal Your Face, which included material that was recorded at the live shows but was not actually featured in the film. So it was kind of like, in a way, a companion piece to the film. They had to put out the album because they needed money to finish the movie. Only 2 songs that were featured in the film are featured on that particular soundtrack. It wouldn't be until 2005, when the DVD was released, that they finally released the official soundtrack of the film, which was spread across 5 CDs. It's a massive set. It includes every song in the film, as well as a couple extras, and even though it contains almost 400 minutes of music, it captures only about half of the songs that were performed. I mean, wow, very cool. But if you know anything about the Dead community and how they like to record the shows and everything like that, I'm sure there's a complete concert out there somewhere that someone probably has. You know, I really, really love that album. If you want a good, comprehensive Dead live album, in my opinion, I don't think you can beat the Grateful Dead movie soundtrack. I think it's really, really great. But some Deadheads would disagree with me, and that's cool too, because, you know, one of the great things about the Dead is that there's so much material out there. It's really infinite, where you can hear so many different versions of one song, one performance. It's really incredible, and I think that that's probably my favorite thing about the Grateful Dead, is that because of the fan community and because they recorded and shared everything, you can find some incredible interpretations of really great songs. Not only that the Dead recorded, but also that, you know, them paying tribute to like Buddy Holly and the Beatles and Chuck Berry and all this stuff. One of my favorite Dead tracks is anytime I hear them play Johnny Be Good. I think that's always really, really cool. But yeah, do some digging on the Dead community for yourself. You know, I think everybody would be pleasantly surprised at what they would find. But yeah, very cool. So that is a closer look at the Grateful Dead movie and its soundtrack. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.